Hetapu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Haru Nefer, Anicharak. This is Kasak Ma Keparu with another video for you. And in this video, I want to talk about how you already have the power. But before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this video. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live and when I upload recorded videos. Also, we have some free ebooks for you if you want to get more into the esoteric, if you want to take your knowledge to the next level. Click on the links below and download those ebooks. Again, they're free. You can start reading today. If you're not already a supporter of ours on Patreon, please consider doing so. You can be a supporter for as little as $1, $5, $20 per month. No obligation. You can cancel anytime, and you get exclusive access to a bunch of white papers, instructional videos on how to meditate, how to invoke spirits, how to contact the ancestors, how to do self-hypnosis, a lot of great things. So consider doing so. Lastly, if you really want to go down that rabbit hole all the way, consider joining my program, Reality Manifestation, where you learn to transition to a new reality, one that is more conducive to your liking, more that aligns with the reality of what you want and not what the ruling elite wants. Last but not least, share this video with family and friends so we can free the planet and shift to a new vibration, to a new planet of love and harmony. So, Anatolak, how are you all out there? How are you dealing with COVID-19? We're still going through some challenges. And you know what? To be honest with you, you've got to love challenges, because when I encounter challenges, it immediately has a nice little hidden Easter egg in there, because I learn and grow more from those challenges, because I have questions too. Why does God do this? Why does God do that? Why do we have this suffering? Why are these people privileged? What's going on? I need an explanation. And then when these challenges directly affect my person, a light bulb goes off, and then I experience an Easter egg, and I know, oh, so this is the answer to my question. This is why this is the way the world is, and it's beautiful. But I did a video the other day, and I got some really interesting feedback from it, but I don't think people got the point. I think they missed out on a lot of things. They didn't really understand where I was coming from. So I want to elaborate more and get deeper into this. Plus, my person has had some things occur, challenges, where you meet that with a joyful heart. You have to become head Haru, and always be joyful, always be social in the midst of great challenges. And our great challenges come from living on this physical planet, Gaia, or we call it Geb. And those challenges affect our amen, our peace, our state of peace, our ability to be at peace. I want you to know something. Let me explain something to you. And I was very into researching Nazi Germany, very fan of that period in terms of what was going on with eugenics, Hitler, what his plan was. And let me tell you a little something about that. When Hitler rose to power, no one saw him as a threat. And that was because there was something within the people themselves that was out of alignment, and that allowed someone like Hitler rise to power. But more importantly, looking back on that era, many researchers and those who actually have gone through the concentration camps and survived talked about something very interesting. And it was a twofold thing. Number one, the Jews who were in those concentration camps talked about how they all who survived managed to tap into a power, a spiritual power, something incredible. And they said it came out of the ability for them to be at peace in the face of gloom and doom, in the face that they were about to die, that they were at peace with their death. And in that moment on the precipice, they were saved. That is what my mission has been, is to teach this power to you, to teach the understanding that, yes, there is suffering in the world, but God has baked into you, God has built into you a peace that nothing can disturb, nothing can challenge. So in the midst of the greatest obstructions, the greatest challenge, you have the ability to be at peace. And from that peace, modern science has discovered something. And they've published papers on this, that they realized that the universe and all that there is came from nothing, no thing. And they were saying, how can something come from nothing? And so they have been studying this. And our ancient Kemetic ancestors always knew this because they told us that the emanations of the gods came out of nothingness, that amen state, that state of rest, of peace. So I want you to know, if you are searching for your power, you're going to have to get peace first, because you can do nothing from an agitated mind. Ask the Chinese sages. They know. They have written many works about that. Now, let me get back to the crux of this conversation. You have been given a vital mission, and you don't realize it, and you don't understand it. You see, the throne has been occupied by Set for a very long time now. And Haru has been in the infantile stages for too long. And you are Haru, the falcon, the hawk. And Set, Isis, your mother, has come now to nurture you into adulthood so that you may do battle with Set. You see, when these obstructions come, and I get your emails, I read what you say, and I understand. Oh, well, what we need to do is we need to separate from them and get ourselves together and then come back and deal with them. We need to purge ourselves of European colonialism or brainwashed programming. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but you're missing the mark. You're missing the point of what is going on here. You see, when I talked about Hitler rising to power in the Third Reich, one thing you should know is that the United States was experimenting with eugenics. And there is a tie between the Third Reich and the United States, specifically the work of people like Margaret Sanger, Darwin. They're all in the soup together. And that when we won the war against Germany and Hitler was defeated, they gave sanctuary to the Nazi scientists called Project Paperclip. They brought those Nazi scientists here to the States and said, we want you to set up something and work with us so we can advance our technology. Well, that was just the smokescreen, because the United States was just as racist as Germany. But anyway, I digress. But what I want you to understand here is that Hitler could not have risen to power if there wasn't something within the German people that mirrored what Hitler thought, that mirrored what Hitler wanted, was a supreme Germany, a fatherland. That resonated within the people, and the people supported that idea. So I'm telling you that I know that you're crying racism, white supremacy, all this and all that, but there's something with you in you that is supporting the current structure. There's something that our government is saying and doing that resonates within you. And therefore, this oppressive system will not go away because it's within you. You see, you play too much. You play like, I'm a Kemetian. I'm Egyptian. My ancestors were in Egypt and Kemet. But your mind is so fixated on corruption, on evil. And you give birth to that in this nation, in this country. You support the very thing you claim to be against, white supremacy. Yes, you do support it. Don't freaking lie. I'm a psychic. I know. I'm an empath. I feel it. See, you've never dealt with someone who doesn't play before. You want to go to all these other so-called Kemetian, the little young MC pharaohs and the polites, a poltergeist, and they play Kemetian. But then when you meet somebody who really understands the religion and understands the way of life, and that tells you that the problem is with you, you don't want to accept that. Because you see, the pit pastor ministers get away with pointing the finger and the blame at someone else. So you have your women that go to the church, they sit in the congregation, the women, and the pimp pastor minister goes up there and say, "You're not the problem. You're a good woman, and God's going to have a good man for you." And then the women in the congregation go, "Amen. I love this pastor." Many of them are overweight, eating fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, collard greens, chitlins, all stuff that kill you, cause heart disease. Minister says, "You're a good woman, and there's going to be a good man out for you. God's got a good man for you." You see, it's okay. It's okay for the pimp pastor minister to point the finger of the evil outside of you. And you embrace that and you accept that because it's a convenient truth to you. But it's a lie. It's a lie. Because when those women go home, they're bad mouthing each other. They're talking how each other didn't look really good, that they didn't wear the nicest clothes, the most fashionable hats, and that they get a man and then they have a bad attitude and the man leaves them. And then they're okay because the minister says it's not their fault. It's the man's fault, even though those men are probably good men. And good men know charlatans when they see them. Good men know pimp pastors when they see them. So a good man's not gonna sit up in no church and listen to no snake oil salesman. You understand what I'm saying? But then a real Kemetian comes along who brings you higher wisdom and higher knowledge and says you exist not in the fourth dimension, but you exist in 5D, where there is nonlinear time, space, no time, space. That in 5D, you are one with all things. You are consciousness, that you are no thing. And because you are no thing, you are everything. Therefore, if there's a problem out here, that problem really is in here with you. That's not going to work with you. That's not going to work with you. You're not going to buy that because you are spiritually immature. You are baby Haru who has not developed enough to do battle with Set. And you're still sucking on your mom's tit and you refuse to let that nipple go. See, I'm telling you this, that as long as you are here, and that as long as you go to those religions, those universities of higher education, and you indoctrinate yourself into left brain thinking, then you are supporting white supremacy. Then you are supporting the corrupt oppressive system that exists today. The mere fact that your vibration has been attuned to left brain thinking shows by default you support the very system you keep saying verbally that you are against. Your mouth is saying one thing, but your actions are doing a totally opposite thing. You're going to have to do it 100%. You cannot be half a gangster. Do you understand what I am saying here? When you go to the universities and you want your higher degree, you want that master's or that PhD or that associate's or that degree in fine arts, where the subjects are split, separated, labeled and defined, which is a Sebekian thing. Sebek labels, defines, and separates. In Kemet, there were no divisions of subjects. In Kemet, we never had a subject called astronomy, math, social science. We never had that because in Kemet, we had what we call the universal field theory. We were looking for principles that connect everything into one thing. When you learn something in Kemet, you learned it on a microcosm and how it related to the macrocosm, how it was above and how it is below. You couldn't walk into a Kemetic mystery school and say, I would like to learn astronomy. They were like, what? Astronomy? We don't have a single discipline called astronomy. We have cosmologics, which will teach you about the universe and teach you about yourself and teach you about medicine and teach you about math and teach you about music and then teach you about health. And it's all condensed into one. Into one. You couldn't walk into Kemet and say, I'd like to learn about the Assyrian religion. They'd be like, what? Assyrian what? Well, we do have a spiritual way of life. We don't teach it because you have to live it. That's Ma'at. Ma'at is living truth. Ma'at is not studying truth. Ma'at is not truth proverbs. And the many of you who come with that little nonsense about the 42 negative confessions, you need to get the hell out of my face with that because that is not how the Kemetic people lived. They didn't have no 42 confessions that you read off. You need to understand the difference between what you're reading and what we call as a hymn, or the Port Emaru, the book of coming forth by day and by night, which is nothing but a hymn. It is not a declaration of something really that you did. You didn't live your life by 42 declarations, negative confessions. That's bull. Anyway, I digress. You have to understand that your liberation, your freedom comes from first liberating and freeing your spirit first. Because when you make that vibrational shift internally, it's going to force the universe to comply to your will. That's Haru. Haru is your will. The more you talk, the less things get done. I'm telling you that the energy that runs through you and comes out and connects to the universe. Whatever you do, the universe mirrors and reflects that. There is no way that you are going to defeat the ruling elite, the oppressive system, simply by protests, simply by coup d'etat, simply by laws. It's not going to work. You have to eradicate it within yourself. If you look at the story of Osiris Set, the Assyrian drama, who was Haru battling Set? Who was Seth? Seth was his lower emotions, his Sahu nature. That Sahu within himself. That's who he was battling. It was a grand metaphor meant to tell you something about the universe, that everything is within you. Then comes a man called Carl Sagan and says, you are made of the dust from the universe. We knew that. That's old school stuff. What, he just finally catching up? Get real. You finally realizing that? So I'm trying to get you to understand something. You have got to have an alignment of mind, body, and spirit before there can be a change in the universe. And right now, we don't. Hence is why the people in power today are going to stay that way. They will stay in power. They will bring nothing but death and destruction with them. Because in some way, shape, or form, you support it. You're like the woman in the seat of the Christian church. amening, amening, amen, amen, every time the minister says something. Because you rather place blame on an outside force than look within yourself and say, is there something within me that is reinforcing and holding up this substructure of a society? It's not convenient for you to face that truth. It's a horrible realization to look in the mirror and realize that you haven't done the part that you need to do to get rid of the system that's in place today. I know how difficult that is. I know. But this is what spiritual culture is about. It's about auditing who you are and purging yourself of those negative emotions and habits that lock you down, that betray who you really are. You see, magic is powerful, but it's only as powerful as when you use it. And you're not using it. It's dormant within you. It hasn't been awakened because you still support the fact that, hey, I don't really buy into the whole ancestor thing. I don't really buy into the whole interdimensional thing. All right. So then how are you going to see a change in this world if you're not going to buy into it? You're going to have to take a leap of faith and go in that direction. But you bought into other things, right? You bought into the media telling you about fictitious terrorists, fictitious diseases. You're seeing how the media has lied to you time and time again, how every politician has lied to you. You bought into that and you keep buying into it. So why don't you just take a leap of faith and try something different and say to yourself, listen, we're in a battle here. Haru must come of age. Haru must challenge Set. Haru must defeat Set. But before he can do that, Haru must have his third eye restored by Jehuti. Where are you at with your third eye? What's going on with that? It's not awakened, I'll tell you that much, because if it was awakened, the planet wouldn't be in the condition that it's in now. Because when there's an awakening of consciousness on a global level, the planet will shift to a new parallel reality. And these, oh my God, these guys are so stupid. It's just, I'm just listening to some of their best and their brightest talk about the whole idea of parallel realities and their civic and left brain mind has trapped them into circular logic. But we'll buy into this for now. We'll go along with it for now. We'll say, okay, we'll work with you on this parallel reality thing. But there are other things that I haven't discussed and disclosed about that theory and how it works. But that's okay. We'll ride with that for now. All right. Because they like to feel superior. They like to put out the information to, you know, mislead you, uneducate you. And because your third eye is not open, you just eat it up. You see, you're just receiving information, but you don't have the ability to discern if it's truth or not. You don't. This is why I bring to you the oracle and I say, do oracle reading on what they're telling you. Because oracle is the word of God, and the oracle will tell you if what they're saying is true or not. Let me just address something. I want to address that comment on stoicism because that's come up a number of times. I've gotten emails on that. I just want to address that real quick. There are a number of problems with stoicism. In Kemet, we did practice something very similar to that. which is called Meneb and Alkemat. But you must remember that the Greeks didn't know what they were learning. They don't understand. The Greeks never really took their knowledge to a high level as the Chinese did and as the Kemetians did. In fact, the whole system that we're following today is based on the Greek and Roman philosophies, you know. So I just want you to understand that the idea of stoicism, things like that, can be helpful, but they're very limited. Because stoicism really doesn't account for the fact that you can manipulate reality. You can bring about any reality that you want. Stoicism really talks about accepting whatever life throws your way and learning to deal with it and not getting discombobulated over the fact that challenges hit you, which is good. I mean, that's a good idea. Is like understanding that when a challenge visits you, you must accept it and understand it. But that is where they fall short on, because in the Kemetian tradition, we know that I can change that reality if I want to. I don't have to accept it. And that's the key. And that the prerequisite for creating a new reality is first you must be at peace with the challenge. And then you can manipulate the very substructure or subatomic particles in the matrix so that it collapses into a singularity, one among an infinite number of realities. Which one depends on your belief system? How strong is your belief system? Let me explain this to you. There was a beautiful movie that came out years ago. Beautiful movie. Won Academy Award. People couldn't understand where this movie was going. I looked at that movie and I knew exactly. I said, that movie has the answers. It's about a scientist. It's called Altered States, who theorized that if he takes DMT and ayahuasca while in a sensory deprivation chamber, he could regress in time or go into the future. That's kind of summing it up. You see, if I were to take you and I would put you into a hypnotic state, and I would say to you, while you're in a hypnotic state, that you're now in the year 2050, you then would be in the year 2050 for real. See, our consciousness is the principle of our consciousness is that it's not located in any one fixed point in space and time. Let me say it again. You, who you really are, is consciousness. Therefore, the principle of consciousness is that it's not located in any one fixed point in space and time. It is everywhere. So when I put you into hypnotic state, I am going deep into your consciousness, and I'm giving you a post-hypnotic suggestion, a command, and saying, I want you now to change your focus from 2020 to 2050. And then your consciousness will do it. And you will be able to tell me what life is like in 2050. Hello. Did you know that? But they don't tell you that, though. They don't tell you that. This is why the ruling elite keeps you away from exploring the fifth dimension. This is why they don't want you messing around with the esoteric, because you'll be discovering powers that they already have. They've been there and done that. They don't want you touching it. Do you understand what I'm saying? They want you weak, deaf, dumb, and blind, ignorant of the truth, ignorant of the true higher sciences. I remember when I was filling out my college application, I said, do I really want to do this? Because I just could not get what that system was about. I had problems. I said, look, I'm paying money to you to just teach me from a book, and all I have to do is just regurgitate it and check off boxes on a test. And based on how well I have memorized information, you'll then give me my master's or whatever. And I said, there's a problem with that. Because even then I knew that your ability, your cognitive faculties were broken down into the segregative thought process, or the segregative faculty, the synthesis faculty, the congregative faculty, you know, the analogical faculty. And in many of us, some of these things aren't working properly, which is why we can't see truth. We don't understand what truth is. Right now, what we've all perfected is the segregative faculty, which is the Sebec faculty. We're very good at the the thought process of logic, so kind of good at logic. We're very good at labeling, defining. Now, Osset, she's on the lower half of the tree of life. She symbolizes memory, imitation. Because when you're on the lower half of the tree of life, you're still learning. So you learn by imitation. You learn by just memorizing things. That's the Osset faculty. Then you go to the Sebec faculty, which is logic, then segregative, separating, then labeling and defining. But then when you get to the higher levels, then you start working with Tahuti and Sekert. And those are powerful. Those are real higher knowledge. Very few people reach that Sekert level or that level of Ptah. But anyway, I digress. So in summation, what I'm telling you is this. The energies and the deities run through you and they connect to the physical world. If you are unhappy with the form of government that we have in place, then you're going to have to work on eradicating it within you. You're going to have to work on stop supporting it within you. There's nothing for you to do externally at this point in time. You have all the power you need to make that vibrational shift, to make that change. But it first has to start internally here. You have to first stop accepting the current system and start saying to yourself, I need to be a whole brain thinker. I need to awaken my third eye. I need to spiritually elevate my consciousness. And when you start doing that, you're going to start to see a change in our reality, because the minute the people start changing, we then shift to a parallel reality. And we'll keep shifting until we get to a reality where there is love and harmony. And it is possible. And we'll keep shifting even further to where there will be no ruling elite, to where there will be no white supremacy, to when there will be no sexism and racism. But you got to first deal with that internally. If the masses of our people stood up and said, we are done with this system, there could be such a change overnight. But you see, we're so myopic. We're narrowly focused. And we say, we just want to stop this thing called white supremacy or racism. That's not enough, my beloved. You have to understand that those things are the effect. What is the cause? Get to the root cause. You have a mission. And all of you who are watching me today were at one time in Kemet, in Egypt. This is why this information is coming back to you. Because your mission is to resurrect Osir, to bring out the God within you. And you are the one that's going to be the Neo, the one to lead the people to a new world. But that new world has to start within you first. Every person of color should look at themselves and say, I am blessed. I have a mission. My mission is to resurrect Osir, to resurrect Kemet. And how will I do that? First, by denouncing the idea that the left brain logic is superior, and say that we are going to teach our children and teach the world whole brain thinking. We are going to open our third eye. We are going to spiritually elevate ourselves to the level of Shechem, which is the title of the powerful pharaohs. We are going to embrace the occult. We are going to embrace spirituality, not religion. We are going to challenge the ministers and tell them that they are full of lies, that they have plagiarized our spirituality, they have plagiarized our deities. There was no Jesus. There was only Osiris and Isis. There was no Moses. There was only Akhenaten or Amenhotep. And I mean, you have to challenge the system. You have to challenge these people. They're not going to change on their own. I want you to embrace magic and make your life magical. Do your rituals. Put up your altar to the ancestors. Open up that gateway to communicate with interdimensional beings. Yes, does this sound far-fetched? Yes, it is. But take that leap of faith. This is how our ancestors lived. And they're waiting to give you that knowledge on how to rebuild Kemet. But until you relinquish the idea of concrete thinking, you see, the Greeks went into Kemet and they went into the Egyptian mystery school and they spent a little bit of time there and they studied and they took away what they could, but they couldn't grasp it. They couldn't grasp it because they were left brain thinkers. That's how they're made. That's how they're made. So if you're a left brain thinker, all you can think of in terms of concrete physical representation of things. You can't think metaphysically. You can't. But the ruling elite knows because they are the ones that destroyed Kemet. They bought off and paid certain Kemetian priests, and they worked with them to conspire to take over the planet, to burn the libraries, to covet the wisdom and knowledge for themselves, and to put the world into darkness. There's so much more in the light spectrum that you could be seeing, but you can't see. You're not a whole person. I've said this before. We're a planet of psychopaths. I mean that. We're a planet of psychopaths. You take the two combinations and you have a psychopath, a murderous, rampaging psychopath. You take a person that's only polarized in left brain thinking, concrete thinking, who is not spiritually awake, also, who doesn't have his third eye, and you got the making of death and destruction. Because your right brain is the seat of morality. Your right brain checks you and says, is that morally right to do? Should we go over there and invade them and take their land? Is that morally right? Your right brain is going to check you. This is why we have a society that prides themselves on cunning, being crafty. Here we go again with the Hegelian dialectic. Every 4 years, two choices for president, two choices only. This is how they think. They're trapped themselves. It's not the masses of people's fault. It's not the masses of white people's fault. This was engineered from the very beginning. It's not your fault that you're in the situation you're in now. This was engineered from the beginning. But it's your fault if you continue and perpetuate the current system. You need to become a whole being. You need to become whole brain thinking. If you look at all the cultures of antiquity, all the cultures of melanated people, none of them enslaved people based on the color of their skin, because the right brain doesn't look at the external physical representation of who you are. The right brain says you are consciousness. And as such, we are all connected. That's how the right brain thinks. It's congregative in its thought process. This is why Ma'at is a female. Female symbolizes the right brain. The left brain is a symbol of the male principle. There were many cults at Kemet that they had, and chief among these cults were two. There was the moon cult and there was the sun cult, and they had to have the balance of the two to be holistic in their thinking. But they were a little bit leaning more to the right. That's okay. But this society that we live in is devilish and evil in its hatred of the right brain, of the female principle. It's when you do, if you ever get into criminology, and I was studying criminology, you can really put together a character personality trait. And we would have to write these case scenarios and write these personality traits out. But if you look at people who are serial killers, who are evil criminals, you will see that there's a commonality among all of them, and that's they were left brain dominated. And we are going to have to one day go before the world court or go before some judicial body and say it loud. Listen, um, this thing, racism, sexism, evil, cheating, waging war, is a product that comes directly out of being polarized in one hemisphere of the brain. And the only way that we're going to bring balance to the world and live in a just world is that we are holistic in our thinking. And we're going to also have to face this terrible truth, and we're going to have to explain it and tell it to the world. We're going to have to say this. Well, listen, according to human evolution and human, how we evolve in different climates geographically on the face of the earth, white people develop their left brain and black people develop their right brain or integrated brain thinking. We're going to have to say it. Listen, um, white people have a propensity to think left brain, and the product of left brain thinking is very, very destructive to the planet, destructive to life. Your thinking is faulty. So let's heal the planet and start getting back to whole brain thinking. So we're going to have to kick Freud's ass, kick Carl Jung's ass by stating this truth. And this is an absolute fact of truth that they developed in a cold climate with facilitated left brain thinking only. And left brain thinking made them think only in terms of my survival. And it made them crafty, it made them cunning, and it made them immoral. And we're going to have to start writing papers on this, and we're going to have to start putting this truth out there. that the majority of the people who are in power, positions of power today, people of European descent, think left brain, and according to human evolution, human development. I don't want to use that word evolution. I don't even, that's not even correct. Human adaptation and knowing the traits of the left brain is detrimental to the existence of life on this planet. And without the balance of the right brain, the left brain will destroy the planet and all life on it. We're going to have to say that fact. That is not racist to say that. That is science fact. Now, unfortunately, those in science at the upper echelon know this is true. They know it's true, but they're not going to publish papers on it because they'll be ostracized. They'll be assassinated. You see, there are certain Egyptologists that know for a fact that Egypt was a black civilization because only a black civilization could have given birth to Kemet because Kemet is a whole brain society. That's a fact because hot tropical climates gave birth to whole brain thinkers. Cold climates gave birth to left brain thinkers. Why are we not talking about this? Why is not science putting this information out there? Modern psychology is replete with all of its character studies of killers, narcissistic personalities, um, you know, every disorder possible they outline. They're very good. They've had books on all the problems of the mind, but when it comes to understanding where does polarized being in where does polarization in the left brain lead us to, they're very quiet on that fact. Well, we talk about antisocial behavior. We talk about addictive personality types. Why aren't we talking about how the brain works and what happens when you're not whole brain and thinking? Because if you look in history, you'll see that we produce geniuses, and those societies in antiquity were very sophisticated. They didn't have serial killers. They didn't have pedophiles. Why didn't they have those? Because they were whole brain thinking. So then, why aren't we discussing this fact as a means to help the world evolve and change and become more spiritual? Because they leave that out of discussion of modern psychology. Freud was an example of the left brain studying itself and thinking that it only exists inside of a box and there's nothing else out there. Carl Jung was an example of the left brain trying to postulate possibilities and things that could happen if it were to embrace right brain thinking. He was one of the very few who was a little more in tune to the right brain. But most of them didn't want to broach this subject. When you examine all of the high culture civilizations of antiquity, you will note that they all have the one thing in common, and that is the societies were built by whole brain thinkers. Science is a study of nature. That's not correct. Um, because there's something that exists beyond science. Science cannot phantom, or science cannot embrace the metaphysical. Science is the idea of the left brain trying to understand itself. When you study science, one of the things you understand is it has to be proven, and to prove it, the experiment needs to be repeated, and the results need to be consistent. When you start dealing with the right brain, which is dynamic in nature, the right brain is interactive, it is flexible. You cannot repeat experiments with the right brain. Reality, it responds to the observer. I, as the observer, creates the reality. My reality differs from your reality, and your reality, and your reality. And it does not repeat the same thing. So therefore, science cannot measure that. That's a problem for science. So there's a limitation there. Please understand that. Now, I don't want to make this whole thing as simple as, well, all we have to do is just get back to whole brain thinking, oh, now troubles will be solved. It's a little more complex than that, but I'm just trying to get you pointed in the right direction so you understand where the problem lies. And we have to start looking at that. You must understand that we have to free. You see, the law of Ma'at says that we're all connected. This is also the 100 monkey principle too. So unless you're going to work to the freedom of the whole, whatever you're trying to do is going to fail, because you are connected to everyone. What I think is going to transfer out to the ether, and it's going to affect people, and they're going to receive those thoughts, and they're going to act upon those thoughts. This is how we can make changes and help people near and far. This is why we don't have to actually get into a military uprising or coup d'etat to change the current system of government. We can do so by just changing our own thought vibration, and that's going to affect everyone. This is how the ruling elite did it. See, the ruling elite knew that all they had to do was get together a certain number of people to think in the way they wanted them to think, and that would be there would be a cascading effect, and it would infect the planet like a virus. Let me say it again. The ruling elite didn't take control of the planet by might, by force. They knew that through propaganda, all they had to do was to get a certain number of the majority of the people on the planet to think in a certain way, which is through the left brain. Then the whole planet would shift to that frequency of left brain thinking, and they would win, which would be controlling the planet. And they won. And they did it through incremental changes, what David Icke calls the totalitarian tiptoe. You see, what they did was they opened a dimensional portal, and they communicated with entities who don't reside in the same time space continuum that we do. They experience time in a very different way. And they set at and receive counsel from these beings on how to do certain things to capture the planet. This is how they were to gain the occult wisdom and knowledge to imprison the planet. You see, this is why we've got a problem here, because they understand the principles of time and space. People start uprising and starting to want a new system. The ruling elite will then simply change the frequency of the planet to a different parallel reality, one that is still along the lines of their dystopian future. So when I tell you that the ruling elite controls time and space, they do. They do. They can make situations and people be at places and times exactly according to their wishes. You have that same power where they're sitting at the feet and receiving counsel from these beings from whatever dimension they're communicating with them. And these are evil beings. We can sit at the feet of Tahuti and receive the same wisdom and knowledge for the betterment of the planet. We can sit at the feet of ancestors who will communicate to us through time and space and give us all kinds of knowledge to move the planet in the right direction. So JMO is called predictive programming. They're throwing it out there. They want you to know what they're doing. They put it in their movies. They're telling you, hey, this is how we took over the planet. But we know you're too stupid to pick up on what we're doing. So because they've used that whole Sebek thing where they label it and define it as science fiction, you'll never take it seriously. You never think that's a real possibility of something like that happening or it can happen. You know what I'm saying? Listen, this whole thing really starts with you understanding your power and understanding how powerful you are and what you're really capable of. And collectively, what we can do. And that's dangerous for them because they know if the collective people on this planet got the idea of a different world that they wanted, that we could bring that to fruition. And that is the threat to them. Why do you think they oppress people of color so much? Because people of color are the ones that built the great civilizations of the past, that were the first priests and priestesses that explored the occult, the hidden knowledge, and gave truth to the world through Ma'at. So they have to oppress us because their hold on the power, their hold on the planet depends on them oppressing us. Because if they don't oppress us, then what we're going to do is to bring back the old wisdom and knowledge of our ancestors and shift this planet to a loving and harmonious place to live. This is Kasak Maa Keperu, son of Maat and Tuti. My aunt is the beautiful goddess Heteru. Until my next video, I'm in Ra.